In pro assessments, given a tipping point has occurred, three narratives or scenarios are detailed that are ultimately used to calculate the 10th, 50th, and 90th percentile impacts to the value of the enterprise as measured in the net present value of free cash flow, arguably one of the best measures of enterprise value. This is referred to as narrative-based analytics, one of the innovations of pro enterprise management. The CFO organized a team to perform the narrative-based assessments. Both revenue impacts and total cost impacts were considered. With the three narratives or scenarios defined to inform the numerical assessments, the revenue impact was assessed by revenue source, the number of years impacted, and the percentage of annual revenue lost. The numerical assessment of the narratives begins by considering the potential impacts given the security system patch is not pursued. The error messages vulnerability risk and the old test API's vulnerability risk are assessed together in case there are any correlations between these two sources of risk that must be considered and accounted for. Consider the surprisingly bad 90th percentile narrative. This narrative implies that if a hacker uses error message information to reveal a system backdoor resulting in a breach of customer data, then the device product's revenue will be impacted for about 3 years, with about 5% of the total device product revenue lost per year. Additionally, under the surprisingly bad narrative, if a hacker uses old test APIs to reveal a path to the ERP system resulting in a breach of customer data, then all sources of revenue will be impacted for about 3 years, with about 5% of total revenue lost per year. This assessment was repeated for the surprisingly good 10th percentile narrative and the median 50th percentile narrative. This method of considering impact over time is illustrative of just one of many methods that can be used to assess revenue impact over time. There are many potential sources of cost associated with the breach of customer data, and each of these must be considered as part of the overall coherent and consistent narrative for each of the 10th, 50th, and 90th percentile numerical assessments. For the numerical assessment of cost impacts, the team started with the old test API's vulnerability risk, assuming the security system pre-upgrade patch is not pursued. Measuring cost in thousands of dollars, each of the sources of cost was described for the surprisingly bad 90th percentile scenario and assessed numerically. Given the tipping point has occurred, that is, given hackers use old test APIs revealing a path to the ERP system resulting in a breach of customer data across all of their customers, then the surprisingly bad 90th percentile cost consequences sum to over $19 million. The surprisingly bad or 90th percentile scenario represents a cost impact scenario where there is only a 10% chance that the actual scenario would be a greater loss as measured in net present value. The team also numerically assessed the surprisingly good 10th percentile cost scenario and the median 50th percentile. The 10th percentile scenario represents a cost impact scenario where there is only a 10% chance that the actual scenario would be less costly as measured in net present value. As always, any correlation or dependence among the cost values and the revenue impact values must be considered in these assessments to ensure the overall scenario is coherent and consistent. A similar cost impact assessment was performed for the other tipping point associated with the error messages vulnerability risk. One of the questions the CFO had for the team was, what was the magnitude of the risk liability associated with these two risks? Without the security system upgrade patch, The expected risk liability associated with the old test API's risk is about $1.2 million. This accounts for the tipping point probability plus the potential revenue losses and costs. There is only a 10% chance that the magnitude of this risk, if it were to occur, would be a greater loss than $5.9 million. The expected risk liability of the old test API's risk and the error messages risk is about $1.38 million, with only a 10% chance that the total losses would be greater than $6.5 million as measured in today's dollars. The security system consultant admonished the executives that the security patch will not guarantee that a data breach will not occur. However, the security patch will eliminate the two security risks identified. The proposed security system patch project will take about 4 months, so a risk liability remains until the project is funded and completed. Given the risk seems nominal, the CFO didn't think the spend was justified. The team knew what the next question would be from the CFO. What is the return on investment for the spend on the project? Investment productivity is the primary return on investment measure used in pro enterprise management. Investment productivity is defined as the expected net present value of the risk liability after investment action minus the expected net present value of the risk liability before investment action divided by the present value of the investment. We've already calculated the expected NPV before investment action, and that is minus $1.384 million. The expected NPV after investment action is minus $694,000, and as with all ROI measures, this also includes the cost of the investment. The present value of the investment is $135,000, yielding an investment productivity of 5.11. In simple terms, this implies that for every $1 of security system patch investment, the enterprise creates or protects about $5.11 of an enterprise value as measured in today's dollars. As a percentage, this represents a 511% ROI. Short of this type of analysis, management would be unaware of the magnitude of the financial return for pursuing the interim security system patch prior to the future planned security system upgrade. Investment productivity for investing in risk mitigation can vary from negative values, as in not worth the investment, to well over 100. Watch part 3 of this video series to understand how the CFO compares and prioritizes discretionary investments. Contact us and apply Pro Enterprise Management Analytics to determine your best value cybersecurity plan and cyber risk management initiatives. For more information, check out our website and pick up a copy of my latest book, Problem, Risk, and Opportunity Enterprise Management.